Welcome back to another episode of Sick I Swear. I am your host, Caitlin Rohde, and all right, it is no secret that I have been slow at getting episodes out, slow at getting content rolling, and that just comes with trying to figure out balancing my energy and illnesses and also getting all this done. And I've found that it's been easy to have the conversations, but editing and getting them out have been the hard part. So, nonetheless, this episode was recorded a couple months ago, and I am so excited to introduce you to this guest. Her name is Donna, and she's an advocate, a creative. She does a lot of content online, very informational. She's very intelligent, and she deals with EDS. I am so excited to have you here, Donna. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your journey and experiences. And let's just get rolling into your journey.
Yeah. So it's so funny. I was actually just recording a TikTok with this whole story. So it's fresh in my brain. I have had severe chronic pain since I was 8 years old. It actually started after a horseback riding accident. Yeah, I grew up riding horses and it was like my whole life and passion. But unfortunately, right after I started riding, I had a really bad fall where basically I was thrown from the horse and I fell from like 10 feet in the air, flat on my back. And yeah, nothing was like obviously broken at that moment. So I didn't like, go to the ER or anything. But I did go and get some MRIs later that week. And of course, they all came back normal. And the doctors were just like, you're fine. There's nothing wrong with you. But from that day forward, I had really, really severe low back pain growing up in school and throughout my childhood to the point where in school, I couldn't walk upstairs. I couldn't carry a backpack. I couldn't do PE, a lot of normal kid things. And I didn't have any explanation as to why. I basically was just told to go to chiropractors, go to PT, massage, all this stuff. And I did that for my whole life. And it kind of got me through and basically spent my entire life in pain, looking for answers, never giving up. Like I was just going to doctors all this time. And then, thinking, okay, maybe the Western medicine doctors aren't helping me. Maybe I should try more like holistic practitioners. That wasn't helping either. And it wasn't until around mid 2022 that my symptoms started to get really severe, where I had to stop working. That I finally was with a new physical therapist who brought up EDS to me for the first time. And I started looking into EDS and the symptoms of it. And it was like, this light bulb moment of, oh my gosh, this is my entire life story. Like, this is the answer I've been looking for. So I finally got diagnosed formally in August of 2022 by a geneticist in Florida. And yeah, have just been learning so much since then.
Okay, so were you thrown off a horse, you said?
Yes. Yeah.
So ever since then, you went to like doctors, you tried to seek treatment. Was there a lot of medical gaslighting then?
Oh my gosh. Yes. I don't remember a lot of it, to be honest, because it's been so long. And I would say that the chiropractors, physical therapist type people were the ones who weren't gaslighting me, but they also didn't know how to help me. Um,
Hmm.
and that's kind of been my experience is like with medical doctors, just the way that things are structured with how they take in patients, the time that they have allotted to see patients, to go over, their case. It's such little time, like my boyfriend, he's actually working at a doctor's office now, and he learned that they get I think I forget what it was, maybe 5 minutes or maybe it was 10 minutes. I don't remember, but like 5 to 10 minutes slotted per patient, which when a complex patient, like an EDS patient, comes through the door, like you're just not going to get through things and get to the bottom of things in 5 to 10 minutes. Which makes things difficult because at that point, a lot of people would say, well, you should go to a functional doctor because they have the time. They'll often, spend hours on your case, like kind of taking inventory of everything. But I tried that too. And in my experience, if they weren't really knowledgeable in EDS, they just were not going to be able to help me in the end.
Hmm. And plus, when you go through functional, it's not covered by insurance. So you're whipping out thousands of dollars,
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's just like not an option for everyone either. But yeah, the medical gaslighting is absolutely wild, especially when tests come back normal and they're just like, no, you're crazy.
Yeah, I will never forget. I was in this like period where I was suspecting EDS after my physical therapist had brought it up. And then I started actually learning a lot about it on TikTok and just I was convinced, that this is what I had, but I hadn't gotten a diagnosis yet. And I had went to see one, I think he was a pain management specialist. And I told him, hey, I suspect EDS. And he flat out said, you don't have EDS. If you did, you would look like Abraham Lincoln. And I was like, okay, this guy clearly does not have much knowledge on EDS because there is a type of EDS where that can happen where your skin is so excessively stretchy that it's like literally wrinkled looking. And that's the type of EDS that sometimes gets more of like the news attention
Hmm.
because it's so visible and people like things that they can see because they can understand it. Unfortunately, HEDS is pretty invisible from the outside. There is a lot that goes on the inside that, there's so much like evidence like that there's something, wrong in terms of the connective tissue integrity. But just, at a glance on the outside, there's no way you could see it.
So you have hypermobility. Do you have any of the stretchy skin, velvety skin? Is your skin fragile? Do you bruise easy?
So it's really interesting. I have mild versions of all of that, and it was enough to meet the criteria according to my doctor, but definitely not compared to a lot of people I know. Even my partner, he is actually hypermobile, but he doesn't have EDS or anything, but he has that really classic velvety skin that like can even catch when you rub over it.
Hmm.
And I don't have that. So I was like, you literally have the EDS skin and I don't, and that's so weird. But something that is so, interesting to me, which I've been really learning since my diagnosis, talking to so many people and like hearing so many different experiences, is the spectrum of manifestations of symptoms can vary so much within HEDS. And the thing is, there's no officially publicized known gene. They've been studying it for a few years, but the belief is that there's probably a bunch of genes that can contribute to the development of HEDS. And there was actually some research that was posted, I think last year, out of the Norris lab in South Carolina, which is the main EDS genetics research lab in the US. And basically, they found that HEDS often falls into three subtypes. And these three subtypes, one of them has more of like the skin manifestations. One of them has, I forget, more of the maybe vascular. I don't remember exactly, but I just remember I fell under type 3, which had less of the skin kind of, more common things you think of with HEDS and more of the neurological manifestations, which is all the things that I've been dealing with, unfortunately. So I was diagnosed with tethered cord syndrome last year, ended up having surgery for that. I've been diagnosed with cervical instability, which is why I often have to wear a neck brace when I'm sitting for long periods because I have a really hard time just holding my head up. And I have intracranial hypertension. So all of these like really, really horrible and challenging neurological diagnoses, but I don't have the skin stuff that much. And even with the joints and the Baton scale, I was only a 5 out of 9, which is like just barely meeting the criteria. Whereas I've met a lot of people who are a 9 out of 9, and
Hmm.
it's like, there's just such a spectrum.
So people that don't know, the Baton test is how you get diagnosed. There's criteria on there. You go in, you check off the boxes as to like what you experience, what you don't. So yeah, there's 9 questions on it.
So to get formally diagnosed with HEDS, it's a one-page criteria, which is broken up into three parts. Part one is that Baton scale, which is basically a hypermobility test. which is pretty frustrating because when you actually look at that hypermobility test, it's missing so many common joints that people with HEDS and EDS in general often have issues with. And then there's part 2 and 3, which have more like clinical criteria, like for example, the things that I had, and they discovered, is how I met the criteria were like a narrow and high palate, crowded teeth, the I can never pronounce it, the papules on your heels, these like really random things, atrophic scarring that you never would think about until like you go through this list and then start checking things off, and you're like, oh, I guess I do have that.
Do you have a lot of lipomas throughout your body? Like, just curious.
I don't.
No? Okay. Because I've met a couple people and I've talked to a couple people who do have EDS. Not sure what type, but they have a lot of lipomas like throughout their body. And I have so many throughout my back. I'm like, that it checks out then.
Wow.
Cervical instability. Let's talk about that. So
Oh,
I, the physical therapist in Chicago was like, have you ever heard of cervical instability? And she like went through as like what it was along with tethered cord, which we'll talk about that too, because I want more information from you on that. She's like, go get an MRI of it, go get tested. I'll give you all the information to bring back to your pain management doctor, and we'll just get the testing done because I suspect it. I went to my pain management doctor and was like, hey, I actually had two. I had my functional medicine doctor and the physical therapist be like, check out for cervical instability. You kind of like check all the boxes for it. Went to my pain management doctor and he's like, oh no, that's like absolutely, you're in the hospital now. You are absolutely like, that is critical. I'm like,
what?
okay, so I can't get the testing. He goes, no. So that's just like a classic case of like being dismissed by a doctor and like being kind of gaslit as to, nope, not a condition that could possibly exist with you. How
Wow.
did your doctor handle that? How did you get diagnosed with the cervical instability?
So I was diagnosed in 2022 via a digital motion X-ray, which is one of the kind of gold standards for diagnosis because basically it's a live X-ray where you can see the joints and the vertebrae moving in real time and take measurements and all of that. However, since then, I have been trying to see whether or not I am a candidate for craniocervical fusion because I was diagnosed with craniocervical instability and atlantoaxial instability, which is from C0 to C2, and then also with instability in the rest of my cervical spine from like C3 to 7. So I have instability throughout my entire neck, which makes things really difficult, especially because it's not something that is talked about much in the EDS community. Like you're always hearing about CCI, that, first junction, which is the most prone to instability because it just takes a lot of like the brunt of like the force, of holding your head up. Um, but I ended up flying to Washington, D.C. last October to see one of the top craniocervical fusion specialists for EDS patients. His name is Dr. Henderson. And he looked at my upright MRI, which was 2 years old at that point, and said that I didn't meet the criteria for CCI or AAI and that I wasn't a candidate for surgery. And that was really shocking to me. Not that I wanted him to say, you have this horrible condition that requires a major surgery, but I had been told that I did have it. So I think that's another huge issue is there is a lot of difference in opinions. There's different ways to diagnose it, which can potentially change like the outcome of the diagnosis. So that's something that I'm looking to get a third opinion for now. I'm actually waiting to get in with another neurosurgeon in New York who also evaluates for CCI and AAI to see, do I really have this? Because the main condition that I am battling right now is something called jugular vein compression and intracranial hypertension, which is basically a vascular condition. Vascular compressions are very, very common in EDS throughout the whole body. I have it in my neck at that C1 level. My jugular vein is being compressed by my C1 vertebrae and by other structures in that area, which is causing a buildup of head pressure and severe pain and a lot of other symptoms like brain fog, blurred vision, tinnitus, pulsatile tinnitus, issues with my cognition. What is still like kind of a mystery in this EDS community and CCI community is like, does CCI cause that? Because the thought is that the C1 vertebrae is misaligned and is what's pressing on the vein, but there isn't a clear answer yet if CCI is the root cause of things like jugular vein compression, which requires a totally different surgery. So there's a lot of different opinions on what should you treat first. Should you get a fusion first to fix your neck instability? Should you get a jugular decompression surgery, which is the path that I've chosen to go because it's less invasive. But it's hard.
Okay, so with the jugular compression, how did that show up on your scans?
So I had to get really specialized testing for that. I traveled to a doctor in North Carolina named Dr. Kyle Farjan, and he basically did what's called an invasive venogram and angiogram, where they push contrast through your veins and your arteries, and they look at it on like this fancy X-ray machine, basically in real time, and they're able to measure in real time the pressure in the veins and also if there's any stenosis, which is like narrowing of the veins. So and at that same time, I also got a lumbar puncture, which measures your cerebral spinal fluid pressure, your CSF pressure. And basically, he found that I had high pressure and I had compression of my jugular veins on both sides at different places of different levels. And it depends on like if your head's straight, if your head is rotated. So he looks at all of that. He measures it in different positions. So yeah, if anyone is suspecting jugular compression, definitely I recommend getting this testing. Unfortunately, you're probably going to have to go fly somewhere out of state to get it done, but it is worth it.
I feel like that's just kind of become common with people like us. There's not the resources within our like little bubble. We have to go out throughout the states, and it is what it is in order to figure it out. You're going to be a great resource for me, though. I need you to drop all these plugs. Okay, so your treatment as far as the cervical instability, neck brace,
Mhm.
what else you got?
For me, the thing that triggers my symptoms is, first of all, anything that worsens my jugular compression and head pressure issues, which is often cognitive activities and things that send blood to my brain, because basically the blood is not able to exit my brain fast enough, which is why I get all these horrible symptoms. So anytime I have to like really think a lot, I can tell like my brain is working really hard and like literally my brain is getting inflamed and just filled with like pressure. So that's kind of hard to avoid, you know. I am, unable to work right now. So that's one big thing is like I just can't really do anything that requires a lot of cognitive function. And then for me, it's like anything that I have to hold my own head up. So like sitting upright, like using my neck muscles, those like cervical muscles triggers me. Even any sort of neck exercise at this point, I've spent probably 3 years now trying to do different physical therapy, and everything just makes me worse.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm actually scheduled for a jugular decompression surgery this summer with a doctor in Colorado named Dr. Hepworth. And my hope and what he thinks, and I'm kind of like hoping he's right about this, is that the muscles in my neck and the tissues are not getting proper blood flow and nutrients. So it's no surprise that they're like spasming all the time and freaking out and they're not able to work properly. So if I can decompress the jugular vein and allow the blood to flow properly, that might help my neck instability. Unfortunately, there's like no research on this at all. So it's completely experimental. And I'm just going off of like logic and other doctor's opinions and also other patient experiences. And also at the end of the day, like my biggest fear is getting something like a neck fusion and feeling worse
Mhm.
because that's a really, really permanent thing that I don't really want to mess around with.
That's so, I mean, it's not funny, but it's so true that there's no research. There's just
No.
not enough research. Like, we're just like bobbleheads out here. Like,
Yep.
literally.
Yeah.
So, when getting diagnosed and going through all of this, how do you deal emotionally?
Well, I would say befriending other people with EDS has helped a lot. I have a few friends that I made through support groups that I text literally every day. You know, when we get a chance, we FaceTime each other just to like understand each other because it's so hard to even like catch up with old friends or FaceTime with friends when like I'm in a neck brace, I'm like having to be horizontal. And it's just like, there's just like kind of this awkward tension of like, they know something's really wrong, but they don't want to bring it up because they don't want to make me feel worse.
Mhm.
Want to talk about it because it's like, this is my life. And with other people that are going through the same thing, it's like you don't have to feel weird about it because they literally know exactly what you're feeling. They're feeling it right then and there too. So that's helped me a lot. And I would honestly say social media and sharing my story, especially on TikTok. I share a bit on Instagram as well, but I'm more I don't want to say vulnerable, but like I just share more videos on TikTok of like my real life experience, day-to-day story. And I've just connected with so many people through there who are feeling the same exact way. So that really helps.
It is a struggle. And the power of TikTok, oh my God, I can't even, if that thing gets banned again,
Oh no,
I don't know what I'm gonna do.
think about it.
Going back a little bit to like when you're catching up with old friends, they don't have conditions that you have. Do you go out in like your neck brace, or is that kind of like something that you just do in home because of like the questioning?
I really avoid it at all costs just
Yeah.
because like I hate wearing it out. I feel just so awkward having that attention drawn on me. But it's really, really hard because wearing it out would be the best thing for me,
Hmm.
and I would feel better if I did. That's something that, like, I'm still trying to work through. With CCI and potential CCI and trying to figure things out with the neck brace, the opinions I've gotten from doctors, even EDS, you know, specialists have all been to avoid wearing the neck brace as much as you can to not weaken your neck. And I don't think that even some of the EDS specialists understand how severe our symptoms are because every person I know that has a neck brace and has to wear it often, some people have to wear it all day. Like they cannot not wear it, or else they could have severe symptoms like blackouts or seizures or, you know, really emergency situations. It's not something that I am like wanting to wear or like choosing like, oh, I'm just gonna wear this because I feel lazy and I don't want to work out my neck muscles. Like it's literally not that at all. Like I wish I didn't have to wear it, but I feel better when I do. And that's the really hard thing is when I don't wear it, I get really severe symptoms, and that to me is very telling. But I still don't have a really accurate answer on whether or not like I actually meet the criteria for a fusion, which puts me in this kind of like weird limbo where I clearly have instability, but
Hmm.
maybe it's not bad enough for a fusion. But then what do you do with those patients if they're also failing PT and injections and all the other treatments that are available?
It's just so tricky.
Yeah, there's no answer.
There's no answers.
Yep.
Kind of segueing into like advocacy then, how did you learn to really advocate for yourself?
Well, I think probably the first step, which to be honest, I'm still working through, and it's been a journey, is just recognizing my own internalized ableism. And that has been quite the journey because actually both of my parents were disabled growing up. My dad is blind, and my mom, she passed away a few years ago, but she had uh, a mental illness. And my whole life, I've always been surrounded by disability. and saw them as disabled, but never saw myself as disabled
Oh.
ever. Like I never would have thought like, oh, I have a disability until 2022 when I got diagnosed. And then I got to the point where I couldn't physically work anymore. And even then I still was like the word disability, like I don't know if I want to claim that, you know. And then there's this whole idea of like manifestation, like I don't want to manifest that. And then yeah, I got to the point where I had to check my internalized ableism and understands like why do I dislike this word disability so much? Like why is it that I see this as such a negative thing that I don't want to associate myself with? Like what does that say about my beliefs about disability? So that's been huge. And I think following a lot of disabled creators has helped me a lot with that. And still it's hard. It's hard sometimes. Like I don't like the feeling of it, of saying it out loud, especially when I know what a lot of people will think. And it's like you deal with that judgment of like, people are going to think, oh, she's not disabled, you know, because I look fine or I'm 31 and like I look young and healthy, whatever. Unless I'm in a wheelchair or using my cane or wearing my neck brace. It's like, oh, so she is disabled because she's using these mobility aids. But like, I'm still disabled when I take the neck brace off.
You've taken like every single word out of my brain when it comes to this. I think this is like checking myself real hard too, because the internalized ableism within myself is unhinged. I will put it that way. Like you just want to feel normal, you want to be normal, you want to do the things you used to be able to do. And it's really hard, like the acceptance of it. And it's a process. It's not something that's gonna happen overnight. So we know.
You're making me like realize that I think one of the things that holds me back is really the root of the issue is accessibility. Because if I could live my disabled life and have the ability to like do a lot of things that I used to do, I feel like I would feel a lot better. But I guess because accessibility is still like really far off from like what it needs to be, using mobility aids, being disabled often means you are more limited in the world. And that is a really sad thing because no one deserves to be limited in doing the things that they want to do with their life. But unfortunately, that's just been my reality. Like, I can't physically do most of the things that I want to do anymore. And that's really hard.
It's a mind fuck to say
Yeah.
the least.
Yeah. I was going to say, I feel like with the mobility aids, especially with EDS, because, you know, there's so many disabilities where it's like you clearly don't have a choice to use a wheelchair or whatever. You know, if you're paralyzed, like you have no option. But with EDS, there's like this kind of journey of like, okay, when do I need a mobility aid?
That's
And
it.
yeah. And there's thankfully there's a lot of creators that talk about this exact topic of being an ambulatory wheelchair user, where sometimes you need it, sometimes you don't. And that's kind of where I am. And most of the time I don't, but there's times where I do. And then it is a journey of like, okay, well, when do I get my own wheelchair? Do I need a custom wheelchair? But, you know, I think the general thing to ask yourself is does using the wheelchair or whatever mobility aid it is, does it improve your quality of life? Does it allow you to get out into the world more? Can you go further? Can you do more with it? And the answer for me is totally yes. Like I could not go to Disney or to like a zoo even or even the airport without a wheelchair. I just can't physically walk that far or stand for that long. So if I choose not to use it, it's like I'm missing out. But if I choose to use it, now all of a sudden I'm able to be out in the world, and that's really important.
Okay, so for instance, like going to the mall or going to an amusement park, I could walk it.
Yeah.
However, it's going to put me in severe pain. It's going to flare the hell out of me the next day. And sometimes, like, unfortunately, it kind of depends who I'm with. I'll have my mom push me around in a wheelchair or whatever. I don't know why it's so hard for me when I know my friends and friend groups are so supportive for me to like not want to do that when going out with friends. And I don't know if that's just like because I want to just feel normal again,
Yeah.
like going back to the normalcy. But then it's like, okay, that's ableism inside my head. Like, and
Yeah.
how do I get out of that? It's like, it's so hard.
Yeah, I'm completely with you because I still struggle with that. There's times where I don't wanna use the wheelchair even though it would help me because I'm with friends, and it's like,
Hmm.
I just wanna pretend that, I'm still the normal girl. I mean, the thing is, like, I was never not disabled. Like, I've had
Right.
EDS life. It's
Right.
just I'm learning now to accept it.
Hmm. And I feel like, well, EDS, I mean, it is progressive too. Like as you get older and as your body changes too, I feel like it does, in my instance, it has gotten worse. It varies person to person. Everyone's journey is different. But for me, I feel like it's definitely going to be going downhill as I turn the ages. So
Yeah,
it's like balancing that too and really realizing my needs these days because I
yeah.
had no idea when I was younger.
I know. Yeah. Well, I'm supporting you in exploring your possible mobility aid journey and hopefully, embracing that and it can help you.
I think it's kind of an obvious answer, but I want to hear it from you. What made you want to share your journey online?
I would say it's actually less to do with EDS and more to do with just my like really rich inner world. So another thing that has been absolutely life-changing for me, which came around the same time as my EDS diagnosis, is a few months after that, I was also diagnosed with autism and ADHD. And my entire life, I have been neurodivergent and didn't know, but it's been this thing where like I'm kind of like working with my brain and my brain wiring and like often battling my brain and how it works and what it likes. But I often feel like I have just so many emotions. I have so much to say. I feel things so, so deeply. And for me, creativity and self expression and art is the way that I can really express those things that I'm feeling. So I've been sharing my story creatively online since I was a kid. I mean, like, even starting with MySpace, I was doing that. And then I spent years in high school on Flickr, which is this like old photography website, and was like really expressing myself creatively, more talking about like mental health stuff back then because I didn't have a diagnosis of EDS back then. And then yeah, it's just been kind of this like evolution of like me discovering new things about myself and just sharing them like I always have.
I think having a creative outlet is so powerful, especially being disabled, having chronic illness. I think it really does help the mind. And we know that mental health is so important when it comes to our physical health. And balancing it is tricky. It's a challenge, but
Yeah, well, a podcast is something that I've always thought about doing too, because I feel like just having this place to like have honest conversations
mhm,
is so important. Like it is creative in a
mhm.
sense, you know?
Oh, totally.
So yeah, I love that you're doing this.
Thank you. That's exciting. That'd be so fun. And again, having the creative conversations, and it really does make me selfishly feel less alone too. Like, and it helps me throughout my journey. Like, I'm still learning about my diagnoses. I'm still getting diagnosed. I'm still figuring out treatments and talking to other people like you who have gone through all this stuff. Learning from you and everyone else has been really powerful.
The more you know, the more you can share that knowledge with others. So like we
Exactly.
really have to, get the snowball rolling to all help each other because there's still so many people out there who are not diagnosed yet, who
That's the
are
thing.
adults and like they need to get diagnosed to help themselves sooner.
Okay, so Donna,
Yes.
photographer, DJer,
Yes.
traveler, chronically ill baddie. I want to
Yes.
hear about I want to hear about your DJing.
So I fell in love with music festivals, raves, electronic music around 2020, 2021, more so 2021, after I was going through a divorce. And it was like my way to just get out and do things that made me happy, where no one was going to judge me and like something that I had always wanted to do, but kind of felt this judgment around. And I just went for it. And yeah, I really, really love that community. And DJing is something that I've just had on my radar for a long time. And it's just been really, kind of intimidating, like learning a new hobby. I don't like being a beginner at things, but yeah, it's like I don't like to be bad at things. I want to be good right away, like
Yep.
overnight. Perfectionism.
Out.
Yeah, but I just decided, I want to go for it. I'm just starting out. I just got my first DJ controller for Christmas, so it's been like 3 months. But yeah, it's been fun. It's been a lot harder than I expected, honestly. Like you see people DJ and they're like, what are they even doing? Like it looks like they're doing nothing. No, they're
And
actually doing a lot. Like it takes a lot of like multitasking and focus. Like you can't just like go off. Like when you're ready to transition a song, it's like you gotta be paying attention or else you're gonna mess it up. It's like that's coming through the speakers. So
I'm so excited to follow along on this journey. You've posted like a few like little clips. I'm just like, it's like so sick. I love it. And I think you're gonna be really great at it.
thank you. Yeah, I'm hoping that this can be something that I can do while having a chronic illness and a disability. Because, my first DJ set that I recorded this past week, I was just sitting down in my kitchen, like I was able to sit down if I needed to, I could stand up if I needed to move around. So it is, pretty versatile and accommodating, which is great.
And again, it's another creative outlet and it's something that, especially being a music lover, I think fuels a lot more passion as well.
Yeah, and for me, music, especially electronic music and the BPM of it is super, super regulating for me for my neurodivergence. But also there is research that that type of music can also help with chronic pain and just the way that it affects like your brain chemicals, boosting all the good stuff, like can also potentially help alleviate chronic pain. So
What if you're onto something? What if you start making like chronic pain music and then all of a sudden all of us are like symptom reduced?
I've been thinking about that. It's something I'm considering.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
I'm so into that. Okay, so you go to music festivals. How do you manage going to like live music while feeling like garbage?
It's getting harder and harder, unfortunately. When I first started going to festivals was at the end of 2020. I had a lot more capability. And it was still hard back then. Like I was suffering, I was in pain, kind of like where you're at now, where it's like I could go, I could push myself, but I'm going to be in horrible pain, but I could do it. Now I'm at the point where I physically can't stand. I can't do the walking of a festival because the grounds are really big. It's really physically taxing. Plus, it's like hot, and it's a whole day thing. So, one thing is most major festivals have tons of access. They have accessibility departments. They have, you can get a wristband if you're disabled to be able to access their accessible viewing areas, accessible bathrooms. They allow mobility aids. So I'm actually going to two festivals this year, and my hope is to get my first mobility scooter to bring. I haven't
Mm-hmm.
had that yet for a festival, and I've just been kind of like suffering using a cane. I have like a little cane chair, which allows me to sit when I need to sit, but like I still have to do all the walking. So yeah, I think that's going to be a big game changer for me.
Yeah, using your resources, seeing what works for you, seeing what doesn't. And I think I need to take that advice for myself.
Yeah, mobility scooter, maybe you need one.
Maybe because I have the cane with the seat too, and I'm a
Oh,
huge music lover. I love going to live shows and stuff. And I've taken it sometimes, and sometimes I've just left it at home because one, it's the society judgment. I just can't with like the looks and like the why do you need that? And like you look fine and stuff like that. Um, but then again, that's just like that's going against myself at that point.
I get it.
Yeah, I know. And I think a lot of people can relate to that, especially in our position. Um, okay, well, in the name of advocacy and having a place to share experiences, talk about chronic illness, I think it's wrong of me not to talk about like the political aspect of what's going on in the world, especially when it comes to healthcare and the impact that it can have for chronically ill people.
Yeah.
We're not political majors, put it out there like that. However, we're just girls, but we have no choice but to be involved in politics at this point, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Um, what are some of your biggest takeaways right now with the new administration policies?
It's a very scary time to be disabled in the US. There has been a lot of talk of potential dismantling of the Social Security Administration, which disability falls under. I am still in the middle of trying to get a final determination for my disability case, which I've been working through for 2 years.
Yeah.
And it's been such a mentally exhausting process, and it's just like, I know I need this, I know I deserve this, and I'm fighting for it, and I've been fighting for 2 years, and just the thought that all of that could potentially be taken away because of this administration is quite scary, because I quite literally depend on this, getting approved because I don't have any other income. Um, but not only that, just the way that disabled people are going to be treated and viewed. And it's just empowering hateful, ignorant people to be hateful towards disabled people and potentially even harm them. There has been a list of words put out there that the federal government is now prohibited from using. Any federal worker is encouraged to not use any of these words. And on that list is disability, disabilities, accessible, woman, female. So it's like I'm literally targeted here, as trying to be made even more invisible
It's a,
than I already am.
it's a good time to be an American, baby.
Ugh, yeah, I have been making a plan for myself to leave the US. I used to live abroad. I used to live in Mexico, and I'm looking to move abroad again. Because regardless of like the current political climate, like that's just like the cherry on top. But it's already been really hard for me to live here because of the quality of life that we have in the US, I feel is just so poor. And it's like, yes, we're a first world country, but like, do we have like walkable communities? Do we have good access to green spaces? Do we have affordable health care? Do we have good food quality, good water quality, air quality? No, we don't have any of those things. And those are all vitally important for someone like me that it really impacts me and how I feel on a day-to-day basis having these things.
Yeah, I mean, this country is a business. It's profit over people,
Yeah.
like they don't, especially when it comes to marginalized communities, which we fall under. It's a very terrifying space to be in. And I'm just angry all the time. And I'm trying to regulate that. And I'm trying not to like make it be my entire personality right now. But it is so important to be talking about this stuff and having conversations, especially with the people with the blinders on that just like don't want to hear the noise because it's like terrifying, honestly.
Yeah. I
Um,
They're unfortunately in a position of privilege where they don't have to care, and that's what I think people don't understand is it's not like I want to be spending so much of my free time talking about these horrible things. It's like I would much rather be doing something else, but I don't have a choice because my sense of justice says otherwise. Like I can't just turn a blind eye, but also this affects the disability community so much and women in general and every minority, every vulnerable group, which disabled people are some of the most vulnerable people in
mhm.
the US. It's like we have to speak up.
We don't want to. We don't want to have to be doing this, but we have
Oh,
to be.
no.
So where is your line of like staying informed, but then not getting too overwhelmed with all the fuckery?
Oh, that line is definitely a little blurred right now. I think it has more to do with my boundaries with my phone and social media in general. Which I like most people our age really struggle with because on one hand, like I'm a TikTok scroller, like I love a good TikTok scroll. And like it genuinely like makes me happy and laugh. And like I see so many amazing things on there and I learn so much. I mean, like so many of my diagnoses that I have now, I actually found through TikTok, which is
Mhm.
insane. But yeah, it's definitely a thing where like too much of anything is a bad thing. So I have to put my phone in another room a lot of times. Like that's really the only thing that works for me is like if I put my phone in another room, it's not right next to me, then like I don't grab it.
Out of
If it's
sight, out of mind.
yeah, that works for me. But if it's right next to me, I will grab it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great tool. I'm probably gonna have to use that tool too because it's so easy to just get so consumed into what's going on. And that's not a bad thing, right? It's not a bad thing to be informed, but it's at what point are you just being too overwhelmed and overstimulated with how much is actually going on? So,
Oh, tough
yeah,
breath.
deep breaths. That's what we can do. We can only do our best. And I think staying informed with local government is going to be like the biggest tool. And I've never done that in my life, but now I feel like it's very important and it's crucial to do. So I think coming with these midterm elections and staying informed and doing what you can locally is what you can do.
Yeah, well, we're both in Tennessee, which is a red state.
Blue
Uh,
dots.
yeah. How has that been for you? Because for me, I mean, I'm in Chattanooga and it's pretty liberal here, but definitely I feel like it's not liberal enough for people to be like really protesting. There's been like really, really small protests, but not what you've been seeing in your bigger cities like, Chicago, DC, Denver, Seattle, like these places where there's, a lot of more educated people.
It's probably been about the same. I mean, it's definitely, we're a blue dot in a red state in Nashville here. And there has been some protests, not huge, big ones. Definitely surrounded by a lot of conservative.
No, it's been tough. It's a really hard time. My dad is extremely conservative, and that has been super hard for me. I have like a couple friends who are conservative who I literally can't even talk to them about it. And it's even harder now being so vocal on social media about how this impacts me very greatly and not hearing anything from them, just hearing crickets. It's like this would be the time for you to speak up and like support me. But
Well, right. And that if they have different beliefs in you when it comes to that, that can't make you feel very supported as a human.
no.
And it's hard. It's a hard climate for everyone, especially when you have conservative close people around. And luckily, I don't have that many. And I don't know if I've just like kind of X'd out those people at this point because that's what I have to do for my
Yeah.
healing right now in order to get through. But I think I've said it a couple times. It's tricky out there.
Yeah. Well, I am really proud of you for being someone who is willing to be informed, educate yourself, because all of these things that we've talked about with internalized ableism, learning to accept our own disability, learning to accept mobility aids as not being something to be embarrassed about, all of that has to do with politics and access
Hmm.
and things. So like it's all intertwined.
Thank you. You're going to make me freaking cry. Oh my gosh.
Oh,
And I'm so proud of you for putting your journey out there, for your experiences, being informed. You're so knowledgeable.
oh,
And I think that that's really important. And your voice is going to go a long way. And we just need more of it.
thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you for being here, taking your time, sitting upright.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to be flat after this.
Yeah, same girl. We're going to go rot for a second. But where can we find you? What's your social media?
So I am at Wander with Donna on all the socials, Instagram, TikTok, and now YouTube. Um, yeah, I would say I share the most on TikTok about chronic illness and EDS. So if you're interested in that, go to TikTok. But if you want to see more of my like DJ journey, travel stuff,
Yeah,
maybe
we do.
YouTube. So
I'm so excited for that. And thank you for being here and talking. I could talk to you for hours, days,
yeah.
weeks.
Well, we're only 2 hours away, so we got to meet up.
What the hell? Yeah, we do.
Yeah, we should meet up.
Okay, we'll figure out a time. I've been wanting to go down that way anyway, so we'll chat and figure it
Yeah.
out. But thank you. That'll do it for this week's episode. Follow along on Sick I Swear podcast because your girl got hacked and Sick I Swear pod is no longer a thing. So if you want to do me a favor and go report that account and get that shit taken down, that would be so great. But here we are, Sick I Swear podcast, new TikTok. Don't forget to rate and subscribe. Get this out to as many ears as we can and continue making invisible illness visible one episode at a time, baby. See you next time.